Trevor swallowed, throat tight. He stepped inside. The interior of the cabin was dim but warm, lit by a single lantern hanging from a wooden beam. Shelves lined the walls, crowded with jars of dried herbs, bundles of roots, and small bowls filled with powders of every color. A kettle simmered quietly on a small iron stove, releasing a faint scent of mint and something sharper, something Trevor couldn't place. The oracle moved with slow, deliberate steps, as if she had all the time in the world. Trevor hovered just inside the doorway, unsure whether to sit, stand, or run.
Close the door.
Trevor did. The latch clicked softly. She gestured to a low wooden stool near the center of the room.
Sit.
Trevor obeyed, lowering himself onto the stool. His hands wouldn't stay still. He clasped them together to hide the shaking. The oracle studied him, not his face, but the space around him, as if she were reading a second silhouette only she could see.
You haven't slept.
No, not really.
And when you close your eyes, something looks back.
How do you?
I listen.
She moved to a shelf, selecting a small clay bowl filled with pale green leaves. She crushed a pinch between her fingers, releasing a sharp, earthy scent.
You came here for medicine. Something to calm your nerves. Something to help you sleep.
Trevor nodded, relieved and ashamed all at once.
Yes, exactly that.
The oracle turned to him, her expression unreadable.
But medicine won't help you.
Why not?
She stepped closer, stopping just in front of him. Her eyes softened, not with pity, but with recognition.
Because the fear you carry isn't yours.
Trevor's pulse spiked. Inside him, Daniel jolted, a sudden, involuntary surge of alarm that rippled through Trevor's chest like a shock wave. Trevor gasped, clutching the edge of the stool. The oracle didn't flinch. She watched the reaction with calm certainty.
There, you felt it.
What? What was that?
Not what. Who?
I don't understand.
The oracle crouched slightly, bringing her face level with his. Her voice dropped to a whisper.
You are two, but only one of you is awake.
Trevor froze. Daniel pulsed again, faint, confused, frightened. The oracle's gaze flicked to Trevor's chest as if she could see the echo inside him.
He's trying to hide. He thinks I can see him.
Who is he?
The oracle straightened, turning back to her shelves.
That is not for me to say.
She selected a small vial filled with a pale, shimmering powder and set it gently on the table beside him.
But this will help you sleep, not by silencing him, but by quieting the space between you.
Trevor stared at the vial, unsure whether to reach for it.
Is he dangerous?
The oracle paused, just long enough to make Trevor's stomach drop.
Not to you, but to others. That depends on who finds him first.
Trevor's breath hitched. Inside him, Daniel curled inward, a small, frightened presence trying to disappear. The oracle stepped back, folding her hands.
Take the vial. Rest tonight. Tomorrow, you will need your strength.
Trevor reached out with trembling fingers and picked up the vial. He held the vial in his hand, knuckles white. The oracle watched him with that same calm, unsettling certainty. She tilted her head slightly, as if listening to something Trevor cannot hear.
There is more you should know.
Trevor looked up, tense.
Your existence in this world is coming to an end.
What does that mean?
The oracle didn't answer immediately. She stepped past him, brushing her fingers lightly across a hanging bundle of dried leaves. They rustled, not from her touch, but as if stirred by a breeze that isn't there.
Worlds shift, paths close, rifts open where they should not. Everything comes to an end, eventually.
Trevor swallowed hard. Inside him, Daniel pulsed, a sharp, frightened flicker. The oracle's eyes narrow, sensing it.
You will be pulled away from this place, not by choice, not by will, but by necessity.
I don't understand.
You don't have to, not yet.
She stepped closer, lowering her voice.
But hear this, Trevor. When the moment comes, you will know what to do.
How do you know that name?
The oracle watched him with a calm, steady gaze, ignoring the question.
And Trevor, tell the one inside you, he doesn't have to be afraid of me.
He swallowed hard.
I'll try.
The oracle nodded once.
Good. Now go.
Trevor stood still for a few moments, clutching the vial like a lifeline. He stepped toward the door and paused.
The forest will not be quiet tonight.
Trevor froze.
Do not walk alone.
Trevor opened the door and stepped out into the fading light. The door closed behind him with a soft, final click. The sun had dipped behind the tree line, leaving the outpost washed in a cold, bluish twilight. Lamps flickered to life along the walkways, casting long, thin shadows across the metal platforms. The air felt heavier now, as if the forest itself were holding its breath. Trevor stepped out from the tree line, the oracle's cabin disappearing behind him. He clutched the small vial in his jacket pocket, fingers wrapped so tightly around it that his knuckles ached. The walk back should have calmed him. It didn't. Every sound felt sharper. Every shadow felt deeper. Every breath felt borrowed. He crossed the landing pad just as Cullen and Pamela were securing the last of the cargo. Ben stood a few meters away, arms folded, eyes scanning the perimeter with the quiet intensity of someone who trusted his instincts more than any official report.
Harry, there you are.
Trevor forced a nod, trying to look composed.
Just needed some air.
Pamela shot him a look, not unkind, but assessing.
Air's getting colder. Storm's coming.
Trevor glanced up. The sky was clear. Too clear. The oracle's words echoed in his mind. The forest will not be quiet tonight. Do not walk alone. He swallowed hard. Ben stepped closer, lowering his voice.
You all right?
Trevor hesitated. He wanted to say yes. He wanted to lie. But the truth pressed against his ribs like a second heartbeat.
Just tired.
Ben studied him for a moment, long enough for Trevor to feel exposed, then nodded slowly.
Get some rest before we lift off tomorrow. This place, it wears on people.
Trevor managed a thin smile.
Yeah, I'll try.
Pamela slammed a crate shut and dusted off her hands.
Commander wants us ready to depart at first light. Says the handler's been twitchier than usual.
He's still here?
Cullen nodded.
Yeah, and he's watching everything.
Trevor's stomach tightened. Inside him, Daniel pulsed. A faint, uneasy flicker, like a warning he couldn't translate. Trevor looked toward the far end of the platform. The handler stood there, half hidden in the deepening dusk, speaking quietly with one of his escorts. He didn't look their way. He didn't have to. Trevor tore his gaze away.
Get some food, then sleep. We've got a long day tomorrow.
Trevor nodded, though the thought of sleep made his skin crawl. He could feel the night closing in around the outpost, a pressure, a stillness, a sense of something gathering just beyond the tree line. He slipped his hand into his pocket, feeling the vial again.
Just get through the night. Just one night.
He headed toward the crew quarters, the lamps flickering behind him as he walked. The forest rustled once. A single, low whisper of movement. Trevor didn't look back. Amanda stood at the edge of the square, breath fogging in the cold air. She had told herself she was only here to look, to see if anything lingered, any trace, any hint of where Daniel's soul might have gone. But just as she stepped forward, she froze. A lone figure entered the square, tall, composed, unhurried. He wore a dark coat, the kind that didn't draw attention but also didn't belong to anyone local. His footsteps were soft, deliberate, almost soundless. He didn't look like a threat. He didn't need to. Men like him never did. The agent paused in the center of the square, eyes scanning the ground with calm, analytical precision. He crouched beside a patch of fused stone, the same spot the detectives had examined days earlier. He touched the surface lightly with 2 fingers. A faint vibration pulsed through the air. The agent closed his eyes.
Residual resonance confirmed.
He rose, turning slowly, not searching, but measuring the space around him. Every angle, every echo, every invisible scar left behind by the rift. He reached into his coat and withdrew a thin metallic rod with a single pulsing light at the tip. He held it up toward the church tower. The light brightened.
Temporal lock. Still active.
He lowered the device. He wasn't here to investigate. He wasn't here to ask questions. He was here to find something. Or someone. He spoke without turning.
You can come out.
Amanda's breath caught. She stepped from behind the corner, heart pounding. Not because she recognized him, but because something inside her tightened, as if Daniel's fading echo were warning her. The agent finally turned his head, just enough to acknowledge her presence.
You were here that night.
I don't know what you mean.
The agent studied her. Not her face, but the space around her, the way the Oracle had studied Trevor, as if he were reading something she couldn't see.
You felt it.
Amanda's pulse quickened.
I should go.
She turned, too quickly, and walked away, forcing herself not to run. The agent watched her go, expression unreadable. He lifted the device again. The light pulsed once, twice, then steadied.
Subject's proximity confirmed.
He slipped the device back into his coat and began walking toward the hospital. Unhurried, certain, inevitable. Amanda didn't know it yet, but the moment she stepped into the square, the hunt had already begun.